Lance was 8 years old when he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is a type of bone cancer. It was in his left leg above his knee. So we knew we were dealing with some pretty nasty stuff, and we knew that as much as we have great hospitals in our area, we knew we needed some really expertise to get through this.
Now, where exactly are you located?
We're in Portales, New Mexico, so we're about 2 hours away from Lubbock.
And he was 8 years old. How did you discover it?
That summer, we discovered it in the summer of 2008. Lance was kind of limping around. He had had a really busy summer, went to lots of camps and visits to Grandma and saw the cousins, and I just thought he kind of had either wrenched his knee or that we were going through growing pains. But it was the latter part of the summer that I noticed the limping had really become pretty severe, and when you'd feel his knee, it had a fever to it. So I knew we needed to get in and see the doctor. I figured he had just done something like wrench it, and we'd do a little bit of PT and a little bit of therapy, and we'd be done and on our way. But that was not the case.
I can't even imagine. Okay, then, so what did the doctors say?
We have a great physician's assistant, and we went to go see her, and she said, well, why don't we order some x-rays? So she ordered the x-rays, and that's when we got the initial preliminary diagnosis that there was osteosarcoma in Lance's leg. She visited with me and asked me where we wanted to go to treatment, and I said the best place possible. So anyway, we initially kind of just left the treatment. We were doing some research is what we were doing. We were trying to do our due diligence and figure out where would be the best place for Lance. And so anyway, that was on a Thursday. On Sunday afternoon, I got 2 phone calls. I got one from my aunt who lives in Tennessee, and she told me about the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis and how it's an amazing place. And her son-in-law happens to be a doctor, and she said, if you were faced with this, where would you take your child? And he said, to St. Jude. And then I had a second phone call from an acquaintance at the time. She's now my best friend, but our kids go to school, and she was telling me about St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And so anyway, I thought, okay, this is 2 phone calls I've gotten on a Sunday afternoon. This is really, I think the door is really starting to open up here. Mm-hmm. So I first thing Monday morning, I called our doctor and asked her to place in a referral, and by that afternoon, I was speaking with a St. Jude representative, and we were on an early flight Tuesday morning and got to the hospital Tuesday afternoon. So 5 days later, we were at the most amazing hospital in the world.
Then what happened?
Then what happened? Well, in between all of that, with getting Lance settled and going through just initially getting settled, my husband, Joe's dad, was in Afghanistan. Lance's dad was in Afghanistan, and so we had to figure out a way to get him home so that he could be with us when we were doing all of this initial workup and diagnosis and developing a treatment plan. So,
and what was he doing in Afghanistan?
He is an Army National Guardsman, and he was deployed.
Okay.
So, yes. So it was kind of a mom on her own trying to figure out where we're going to go and what we're going to do, and touching base with Joe as we could. You know, it's not a direct telephone line where you can pick up and call just any time of day type thing. So
now
we had that challenge as well.
Is Lance your only child?
No, we have a daughter. She was 10 at the time. She's now 19.
Okay.
So
so
we have a wonderful, wonderful community, and she actually stayed with a family friend. We weren't sure what we were encountering, and we knew we wanted to keep her life as normal as possible. So she stayed with a family friend and continued to go to school while we proceeded to have Lance take his treatments at St. Jude. And kind of where you were alluding to earlier, he went through a chemotherapy program. It consisted of about 5 different chemotherapies, and it lasted a year long. We came home at the very end of July, and we had left in early August. So we were almost in Memphis, just shy of a few days of being there for a year.
And now you said you had a relative that lived in Tennessee. Was that close to the hospital?
She's about 45 minutes away, so anyhow. So she was actually, when we landed, she was there with us. So we weren't kind of going at this totally alone. which was a huge relief.
Yeah.
My aunt was there, and kind of, just having another person there while you're taking in all of this information was pretty amazing. So we were grateful to have her with us that day.
I know. I just recently visited St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, and I got the tour. And there was another child who shared a story similar to this, and it was, it was a success story that things had worked out. So how is everything?
We love success stories, and Lance is definitely a success story.
Oh, good.
He has what's called an internal expandable prosthesis, otherwise known as a rapiphysis, and it's allowed him to keep his leg and grow as he grows. Because of the osteosarcoma tumor being in his leg, the bone was removed. And anyhow, he's because of that, he's limited with sports activities because you can't exactly go put up a lot of pressure on this type of a knee, but he's able to do just about anything else that he wants to do, and he's a stellar student, and he manages for the sports team. He's their statistician for basketball. He's their film guy for football, and last year he actually got to play baseball. We worked with the coach, and we had some. He got to play JV baseball, and we were just elated. Lance didn't think he'd get to put on a uniform again, and that was a really, really great experience for him. The minute we walked into the hospital, I knew we were at the right place. Just kind of this peace and calm went about me. It's hard to describe, but we just walked in the front doors of that lobby right after that big, huge statue. And since you've been there, you know which lobby I'm talking about. And anyway, the murals on the upper ceiling, and just a sense of, okay, things are going to be okay. We're right where we need to be. And you're right, we didn't ever receive a bill. That was a huge, huge thing for us. Our focus was totally on Lance. Anytime he needed something, we didn't have to wait 24 hours or however long you have to wait for an insurance company to get back to you to see if they'll agree to pay for the procedure. If Lance needed it, he got it. And all sorts of things from he happened to have a scratch on his eye, and we were able to go to the optometrist there at the hospital. He was able to, because we were there for such a lengthy time, we went to the dentist, which is there at the hospital. Which
and the treatment can be hard,
especially with kiddos, because the chemotherapy can do things to their teeth and so on and so forth. So, I mean, from head to toe, literally, they are there to take care of the kiddo and make sure that they have the best opportunity to recover and lead productive lives.
And they take care of you too, right? The family?
Yes, they do. They do take care of the parents. Our housing was provided for us. We lived, because we were there for such a long time. Lance's protocol was a year-long protocol. We stayed at what's called Target House, which is in Midtown Memphis. It's maybe 2.5 miles, give or take a little bit, from the hospital. An amazing, lovely facility that makes you feel like you're at home. You're home away from home. It's specially engineered with a filtering system so that the germs stay down. I mean, you want to talk about an amazing place there in of itself is the housing facility that we stayed in. Lots of activities and things for the kids, a beautiful playground, and playrooms for when it's cold outside. Just some really, really neat things there. So we were very blessed to be able to stay at Target House.
So folks who are listening right now, what do you really wish that they would know and understand about St. Jude?
I would say that St. Jude provides hope during a family's darkest hour, and I want to share that hope.
It's good to know that this radiothon, not only requests that they help St. Jude, but we really help get the word out that if they're coming across a situation like this, or they know someone who is, that they're aware that something like this is possible, something like this exists, and something like this is making groundbreaking changes that are, able to save children who otherwise may not have been able to be saved. And what I understand about the type of cancer that you faced, this is something that, given a whole different type of situation, there may have been a completely different outcome.
Oh,
Is that right?
absolutely, absolutely. And that's another wonderful thing about St. Jude. Their research, they share it with other hospitals. So once they find out these amazing discoveries, they share it with other hospitals across the United States and across the world.
And some are able to go home and complete their treatment at home. And in your case, though, it worked out best to be able to stay there.
The distance-wise was definitely where we were 800 miles away, so it was definitely easier for us and healthier for Lance. Lance, during that time, he went through major leg surgery to put in his prosthesis and then had physical therapy sometimes 3 to 2 times a week, just learning how to walk again. Plus, with the chemotherapies that he was on, it really wreaked havoc with his immune system. So there were times where Lance was neutropenic, and we would keep him indoors and away from people so we wouldn't worry about infection and things like that. And knowing that we didn't have to drive back and forth from home, and we were in I call it our St. Jude bubble. We'd go to the hospital, and then we'd go to Target House, and we knew between those two places that those were the healthiest places for him to be. And actually, we're heading to Memphis next Wednesday. Lance is going to be receiving his permanent prosthesis, and so we will be once again staying in the amazing facilities that St. Jude has. Their it's fairly new. Their new ICU unit, and anyhow, we're looking forward to getting through this surgery and bigger and better things with him finishing this part of the journey, so to speak. His temporary prosthesis will be replaced with a more permanent one.
And his prognosis is complete, though, right? They feel that
his prognosis is complete. He is 8 years cancer-free. Oh. So we have taken that, and we love that, and we go back annually for annual kind of checkups and exams, and we've been cancer-free for 8 years, and it's a nice statement to say. It's just amazing.
And now we're talking to Lance about his journey at St. Jude's. What are some of your best memories?
Probably all the events they had going on at times, and having, they'd have volunteers come in, and they would host, arts and crafts shows and little things for us to do throughout the day. And they would just always be planning little things like that for us. And so whenever they did that, it just made it easier to keep what the actual situation was off your mind.
Right, because I can't imagine how scary it must be to be going through that. Mm-hmm. What were you hoping to share with us today? Anything special on your mind?
That St. Jude is it's the best children's cancer research facility and hospital there is, and that if anybody needed to go there, it's not a place you want to go, but it's the best place to go. And that it's a great place, and they do all that they can for the children that are going through a difficult time, and they really do have it down on what needs to happen for them.
Now, I'm sure you must have made some friends with some of the other kids there who were going through a similar time.
Yes, I had a couple friends. One of them, her name was Abby, and she had a similar diagnosis as me. And then I had another friend that was named Chase, and he was a bit older than me. And then we knew one family that had a small child, an infant, and his name was Riley. And so you get to know the people around there as you are, because that's where your home is, so it's kind of like your neighbors.
Have you stayed in touch with some of these folks?
My mom's Facebook friends with a lot of them, mm-hmm. All 3 of them.
And I'm sure it helped you to be able to be going through this with other kids who were going through a similar time.
Yes, it made it easier. You had someone to relate to.
Mm-hmm. So there was a real sense of family there at St. Jude for you.
Oh, yes.
Aw, that is so good. So it's so good to be talking to you and to hear, your experience. And I'm very happy that you're feeling better.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that there's people out there who are trying to spread the word about St. Jude and raise money for them and help get the word out about the hospital and what they're doing there.
Absolutely. We are very happy to talk to you, and best wishes on your future. Thank you so much, Lance.
Thank you.